Alright, so we're not long after God of War Ragnarok's release, and of course it's the sequel to one of the biggest games of all time, so everyone is raving about it at the moment and loving it, and everyone's like, hey, Game of the Year 2022, either that or Elden Ring. So I haven't played the game myself as the time of recording. I've had some stuff spoiled for me, thank you TikTok, but I wanted to talk about the series as a whole a little bit, and in particular Kratos. I think God of War as a series is kind of interesting to me. So I've played God of Wars 1 through 3 and God of War 2018, and I'm a little bit aware of like what happens in some of the spin-offs. Haven't played them yet either because I'm a loser. But the reason the series fascinates me is because so many people talk about how great a character Kratos is, and he is, mostly due to God of War 2018, not due to the previous games. And I always thought this was kind of interesting because to me, up until God of War 2018, Kratos always came off as a bit of a one-dimensional character. He was always just like, Zeus the entire time, you know? And he did have some bit of character in those early games, but it was always buried under anger. So it always, I guess, came off as a little one-dimensional to me. Or maybe I'm an idiot because it's been years since I've played those games. I should actually mention some minor spoilers for like most of the games coming up. So if you don't want to know anything about the series as a whole, just not going to spoil anything from God of War Ragnarok, but the previous games are a little bit of they're up for fair game. So seeing a little bit of gameplay from the new game and thinking back on the God of War series as a whole kind of made me realize that Kratos isn't as one-dimensional as I thought. Revolutionary idea there. But the previous games are missing something that God of War 18 implemented that allowed for Kratos' development. And the change of approach that they took with God of War 2018 compared to the previous games is that they kind of wrote it a bit more like a TV show. And what I mean by that is that they have a steady cast of characters who all individually bounce off each other and who Kratos can reflect his feelings to at any point in the story. It's why you have Atreus, it's why you have Mimir, it's why you interact with Sindri and Brock. It allowed an avenue for Kratos to express his feelings and emotions, which the previous games were not able to easily take advantage of. Like, in around the time that God of War 2018 was being made, everyone was like, oh, it's just ripping off The Last of Us. Oh, you know, just a dad and son story or a dad and offspring story, whatever. But there's a reason that they implemented that. It's because it works. By having a character who's at your side through the whole game, you have an avenue where at any point during gameplay, the main character can express their feelings to the other character. And even in 2018, when you lose Atreus for a period of the game, guess who you get? You get Mimir. Hey, you got another little sidekick. Now you have two characters who can bounce off each other. Great. Whereas in the previous games, the main narrator of, I think the first two games anyway, it's not Kratos, it's Gaia, or the same voice actor who voices Gaia, because Kratos doesn't express himself. You see points where obviously he mourns his family and he mourns certain characters throughout the series and his interaction with Pandora in God of War 3, but a lot of that is done with a layer of anger over absolutely everything because, you know, Zeus! It's kind of a testament to some of the writing of Kratos in those old games and in the new games as well, because he's not a character who's going to self-narrate. Kratos is a character who's so assured in every action that he does that he doesn't need to like reassure himself of anything that he's doing. He's not there like climbing a wall going, geez, I'm Nathan Drake, how am I going to handle this? God, here goes nothing, whoa! So on the one hand, it's kind of interesting because Kratos is this, you know, mysterious character. On the other hand, it must be really annoying to try and develop him because you have to contrive scenarios where he can express himself. Whereas, if you have characters with you throughout the whole game that can bounce anything off that character, you can then find expression through that character who normally doesn't talk except when he's addressed by people. I just think that's an interesting piece of video game writing that I never really occurred to me before. That's exactly why you have Ellie along with you in The Last of Us. It's why you have Elizabeth? Is that her name? BioShock Infinite? Let's say her name is Elizabeth, I think it is. Or in God of War's case, you obviously have Mimir or Atreus, who will talk to Kratos at any point. You know, it's part of the reason why you have the codec in Metal Gear Solid, because these are all avenues for the characters to express themselves in different ways, or to have other characters bounce their ideas off those characters for you to develop them. I just think that process is interesting, how writers and developers can get across their character through interaction with others, interaction with themselves, like Nathan Drake, or I think Aloy does it a bit in Horizon, but even the way they do it, Nathan Drake is very like self-deprecating, whereas Aloy is kind of self-reinforcing. Nathan Drake is like, oh, here goes nothing, and Aloy's got like, okay, I can do this kind of thing. I just think that's an interesting observation, and definitely changes the way that I will be looking at how characters express themselves in video games. Especially for a series as long running as God of War, it's interesting to see how writing has advanced in such a way that it can develop a character who may have been a bit more difficult to express depth from, like Kratos, to put him in a scenario where you can pull depth out of that character and create depth for that character, as well as creating other deep characters.